Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. My biggest adjustment out of 7, marrying a Filipina, that's what we'll talk about today. We talk quite a bit about cultural differences and age differences between foreigners and Filipinas. Filipinas are sought after for wives for their traditional values, feminine appearance, and friendly demeanor, worth spending thousands of dollars to immigrate after possibly as long as a year wait to be together. It sounds great, and it can be, but not without having to make various adjustments. Where do I even start with that? Please subscribe to Love Beyond the Sea to learn about finding and experiencing marital love. This is a channel that can help with learning how to live with and take care of a wife to be the husband she has dreamed of. I married a woman from the Philippines 5 years ago. We got married in less than 8 weeks. That's right, weeks. So we have our own adjustments to make, and anyone will. I will list some areas that require an adjustment before culminating with what is my biggest adjustment and put it into perspective. So please leave comments here or go to the community corner at lvbts.com. It's all linked there, and maybe start a conversation over there. One adjustment, how about the vast distance between you? My wife grew up about 9,800 flight miles from me. I made 8 flights to see her, marry her, and return home. That's what it required for me, somebody living where I do. After marrying a Filipina, she will want to go home now and then, and that's good for her. I'd like to think if you were able that you would go with her. We've returned 3 times to the Philippines, hope to visit again in 2021. Taking anywhere from 26 to 36 hours to get to a destination by plane isn't easy. That's if you don't have delays and missed flights due to bad weather. Thankfully, the 3rd time for me was much better than the other 2, and the 4th time seemed normal. It is still an adjustment, and hopefully you don't hurt your back sitting as long as you will, like I did. Bring some pain pills. Airport security can be a hassle too, but this is all part of the experience of international travel. What about the age gap? Our age difference hasn't really been a problem. I am not that old, so physically there have been no issues. What about other ways related to age, such as attitude or maturity differences? We haven't had any issues there, as we're fairly similar despite our age difference. My wife isn't materialistic and thinks of others before herself. I would think this was the case with her years before I even met her. Someone her age from America might be more materialistic and self-centered. A lot of that can be due to a Filipina's need to help her family, which requires her to earn money for them that you wouldn't ordinarily see if you live in the West. I would describe myself as being old-fashioned, and I would describe my wife the same way. Mentally or physically, I haven't thought of our age gap as being a detriment or even a challenge in our marriage. I will link a playlist of 19 videos for you so you can delve into that later. There are always going to be challenges, however. The better you know how to manage them, the easier it gets. How about this possible adjustment? Interests, your personal interests. I wasn't a guy who had a lot of irons in the fire when it came to hobbies. I've been blessed to work at the same company for about 40 years and working 6 days a week much of my life. I like watching football and basketball. Sports are big here in Nebraska. I didn't have any hobbies that would really interfere with our marriage. If something did, then it would have to be eliminated or changed. And my wife worked in the Philippines, and so at the time, we were both pretty much occupied with things. We both like basketball, for example. Our musical interests are very similar. I know a lot more bands than she does because I'm older, but I like the ones she likes too. We enjoy karaoke together. Even if we didn't have similar hobbies, I would find a way to do things together that we both enjoy, or I would drop something so I can invest myself in the things that she enjoys. She likes plays, as in musicals, Broadway plays. She likes plants. She likes to travel some, so I do my best to show interest in these things too. I have really enjoyed the musicals, actually, that we've seen together. I encourage her gardening, and travel is something that now I can say I like to do too. How about this for an adjustment? Culture. And when I think of culture, I think about the obligation of children to take care of their parents and other siblings. If a foreign man can't accept this, will need to take place in his marriage to a Filipina, then he will be often frustrated. He can't expect her to alienate herself from a way of thinking she has lived with. However, whatever it is, cultural differences don't have to be fully understood or shared by the foreigner because he is from a different country. But when married to a Filipina, it has to be accepted. I have helped my wife more than I initially expected to, but that is because I love her, and what is important to her, I want to be important to me. When we help her family in any way, then we both will be blessed for doing so. We both share in their benefit. I will elaborate more on helping the family later. As far as her family and an adjustment, I haven't had really issues with her family. You can have problems with any in-laws, but there have not been any issues for us. Nothing unexpected has happened. I asked her father for his permission to marry my wife, and the whole family was present. I have been comfortable around them. Her family is my family too. They will be part of our household if and when we retire in the Philippines. I love her family and think it is a blessing that we are family. One adjustment here you're going to have to probably deal with, it's inescapable, and that's what other people think. What other people think. Something that could be irritating for a foreigner marrying a Filipina is hearing comments from other people who are ignorant of the dynamics of your relationship. I was much more concerned about finding a good wife than concerning myself with what other people thought. If God wanted me to marry a Filipina, so be it. In fact, I prayed for many years and asked my church to pray for a wife until it happened. Wasn't really thinking Filipina, but the result was a Filipina, and I was not even thinking about that possibility. In fact, my late sister knew I liked the way Filipinas looked, and before she died, she told me I would end up marrying a Filipina. After scolding her for thinking that could happen, I completely forgot about her remarks. A couple of years later, guess what? I was married to a Filipina. Now let's talk about money support as an adjustment. Now here is the biggest adjustment for me, but it doesn't mean it has been destructive or that I am complaining. I would say it has been wanting to help her family financially and then doing it. I didn't say it was having to help her family or being pressured into helping her family. I'm not saying this is a negative thing, but I do admit to it being the biggest adjustment for me, and yet I don't think it is something that will be a lasting adjustment because I'm already past that. I think being married since May of 2015, it's possible most of the adjusting has already taken place. It took an adjustment and wanting to help since I had never done this before, as it isn't normally something that comes up in America. The adjusting was not difficult because I hated to do it. It was more in the process of warming up to it. I hope I'm making some sense. In my situation, I've been working, like I said, about 40 years. I had not had a girlfriend for most of that time, didn't have any debt, and didn't have any plans for spending money on much other than what I needed to. I think I was in a good position to marry a Filipina and be able to accept this family dynamic. What's more than that, I love my wife and am able to see the needs of her family as being more pressing than anything I am dealing with. My wife works long and hard helping to pay for some of our bills, her car payment, help with some family needs, as well as our house over there. I think she has been sensible. Even our biggest venture of building and furnishing a retirement house is a joint one. I help because I want to. I'm aware of what the money is for, and nothing is done behind my back. I do manage all the money here, although I have offered her that duty, but she has declined. I don't blame her, but somebody has to do it. I was expecting that I would be helping my wife, but she prefers to do much of it herself. She hasn't threatened me to help support financially. She lays out a plan for how to work it all out, and then I try to help us come up with a plan together that helps her avoid working herself excessively. Partnering with my wife to help our family in the Philippines is a good thing, and I think it helps us bond together with this common goal. It helps a lot if I help willingly. It wasn't like I was being asked to choose between her family and something I had been dreaming about doing for years. What I had been dreaming about for many years was having a wife, especially a Filipina, but I must have considered it too much of a long shot to take it seriously. What I have is a wonderful wife who is very precious to me. The way I look at it, God was preparing us for each other. See the video called Born for Each Other. She to meet my needs and me to meet hers. I like helping her family in the Philippines. Sometimes I say her family. In a sense, that is true, but now it really is our family or my family. Occasionally, a Filipina will express her opinion that a Filipina is under no necessity or requirement to help at home, whether she is single or married. And technically, she isn't, but practically, if there are needs in her family, they should be met somehow. Sometimes it seems that this help back home is an obligation, and there may be a certain element of truth there. But I would be disappointed in my Filipino wife if she ignored her family's needs because she was no longer living there. More often, I believe your experience will be that the Filipina you marry will feel compelled to help. Now, what combination of love, culture, obligation, or pressure, only she will know and may not even be able to express it. My biggest adjustment is a good thing. That's the way I look at it. It gives me pleasure and satisfaction to help my wife help her family as well as try to help my wife fulfill her dreams. She is the fulfillment of my dreams, but that doesn't mean I stay out of her family's welfare. If our family in the Philippines has needs, I would rather help the family than a complete stranger. I also believe any help will be rewarded by God, and there are numerous verses in the Bible about that. Adjustment usually involves money for family help, and I wanted to explain that this will be a relationship building area or a relationship destroying one if the husband doesn't see it as something his Filipina wife will want or need to do. And he is wise to allow her and to help. The key here is that he must know this before marrying her, and if he is not going to be in a position to help her or refuses to, then either he allows her to do it to any degree she thinks is required, or he avoids marrying a Filipina. I think it would be more profitable for him to not refuse, but in talking about this before marriage, she will need to decide if she can respect a man who can help but refuses to. The best thing to do is to help, and if you can't explain, then if you can't explain convincingly why that is, allow her to do what she thinks is best. Talk about how she thinks help for her family will be accomplished after you are married, if you are serious about marrying her. And if you are able, she needs that affirmation and needs to be open to working together with you on how to make that happen. Like anything else, you'll need to trust the Filipina to know what needs to be done. The more I think about this, the more I am convinced before the foreigner even dials up a Filipina's number, he should have this dynamic settled in his mind. We often overlook the adjustments the Filipina has to make. A good relationship adjusts to meet each other's needs. I will continue to adjust for the good of my love beyond the sea.